Hello and welcome to the latest from Hearts Standard. My name is Joel Sked and I am once again joined by my colleague James Kearney as we look ahead to the Premiership encounter between Hearts Midlothian and Celtic at Celtic Park on Saturday. It will be the 28th match tomorrow, I think, since Hearts last won a league encounter at Celtic Park. That was in April 2007. And the team that day for Hearts was Gordon, Karapidas, Berra, Zaliukas, Concalves, Michalinus, Brelli, Kingston, Ivaskevicius, Pospisil, and Driver. Now, James, as a Park Thistle fan, you also understand the difficulty in trying to beat Celtic, because I believe you've not beaten them in a very long time either.
No, I think it's the 90s. But this way, I'm 31 years old, and certainly my kind of match-going memories, I've never seen Thistle beat Celtic or Rangers.
So
yeah,
I mean,
I'm used to it.
Yeah. Because I'm just laughing at some of the comments coming in here because I titled this could Hearts end the Celtic Park hoodoo, and one person, Ben, has just gone short stream tonight, because the obvious answer is from fans is no. It's unlikely the Hearts are going to beat Celtic at Celtic Park. It has been a very long time, and Hearts go into it with on the back of two defeats and on the wee bit of a kind of come down after the 4 wins in a row. And obviously the last week has been an interesting one, especially with the AGM yesterday, talking about the style of the style of play. And I think one fan in particular, the AGM, kind of summed up the feeling where he talked about being completely underwhelmed. When I say it sums up the feeling, it was met by a lot of applause. So James, can Hearts beat Celtic at Celtic Park tomorrow in the league?
I mean, it's possible, but it's extremely unlikely. In this, I don't think it's going to happen. I'll be honest. As you say, it's been a very long time since Hearts have got a result there. Was it 15 years? Did you say thereabouts?
2007. So yeah, it's so 2009. Since it was the last league win was last win. It was 2009. The last in the League Cup. And the last league win was 2007. So my claim to fame is I was in the away end for the last 3 times Hearts beat Celtic at Celtic Park. And yeah, when two wins in the League Cup and one in the end of the 2006-2007 season. So yeah, it's been a very long time, and I hope we're not trying to be all like negative and Debbie Downers. We're just being realistic at what to expect tomorrow.
No, exactly. History is not on Hearts' side, but even just look at Celtic's home record in general. I mean, they've not lost a meaningful game at home domestically in a very long time. I think the last time they lost a home match was at the end of a season when they played Aberdeen. But if Aberdeen won, then Aberdeen would finish above Rangers, and lo and behold, Aberdeen won. So I don't think we're even counting that, and even then, that's probably what, 2018 or something like that now, maybe possibly even earlier. So yes, it's been a very long time since anyone's got a proper result there, and I think that it's very difficult to see Hearts doing it. Let's be honest, because like you say, Hearts come into this in poor form. They've lost the last 2 matches. The game at Pittodrie in particular would have been especially disappointing. I think there are players injured and missing as well, as I'm sure we're going to talk about. So that limits the options Naismith has to him. And yeah, it's a perfect storm, I think, in that we've got a difficult away day. Celtic as well will obviously be looking for a bit of a reaction after dropping points last weekend. They've got, I'm sure I read today that Cameron Carter-Vickers and Daisen Maeda are back and available for them again.
That's of course they are.
That's a very big boost, because I think Carter-Vickers is, perhaps with the exception of Callum McGregor, is probably Celtic's most important player. Like, when you take him out of the team, you notice a big difference. And obviously Maeda is, I think he's a remarkable player. Just the amount of running and effort he puts in off the ball. Again, just basically everything that could go wrong seems to be going wrong at the moment. So it's a very, very tall order, and I think that I'm sure that all the Hearts fans that are heading along on Saturday will be doing so more out of hope than expectation, I think. It's very difficult to see, particularly as well when you look back at the game at Tynecastle earlier in the season when Celtic turned up that day, they were on it, and Hearts were just blown away within the opening 20 minutes, half an hour or so, and the game was basically dead. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be. I fear it could be a long afternoon. I'll be honest. I don't think it's going to be great, but you never know. You never know. That's the joy of that's the joy and the beauty of football. That weird things happen every now and again. But I won't be putting it on my coupon. Put it that way.
We'll get on to absolutely not. We'll get on to talk about team selection and the potential players who could be missing and the players who will be missing. I'm fear of and wary of this getting clipped up by Celtic fans and being made fun of, which wouldn't be the first time. I'm sure it won't be the last time. But it always feels with Celtic that when it comes to Hearts, there is an element of them raising their game a wee bit further. That just because you look at Celtic and domestically, their big game is Rangers. They play 4 to 5 massive domestic games every season, and that's when they play Rangers. And then Hearts are probably on the level below that, maybe just tucked in between Rangers, and then like you go right down, you got Hearts, and then just ahead to Aberdeen and Hibs, because again there's that rivalry from just throughout Scottish football that Hearts are, aside from Rangers, the team that Celtic really, really want to beat. So there's always just this natural ability to raise the game, especially at Celtic Park, where Celtic fans really don't want to see Hearts get anything from the game. So there's always that factor. But in terms of the team selection, so Cammy Devlin is definitely out, and then there are others who will likely miss out. So Callum Newnoff, he's a doubt because of a hand injury, as Barry Anderson reported earlier in the week. Liam Boyce is, again, he's still carrying a knock, so he's a doubt. And I think it was the Scotsman from the broadcast interview today noted that Alex Lowry is also a doubt for tomorrow's match. So it limits your options in certain areas. James, I've not because we came straight on this. I've not had a look at your predicted lineup, and you've seen mine. Have we agreed on the predicted lineup, or is there a surprise or two from yours? Because I've gone for Clark, and then the usual back three of Kingsley, Kent, and Rowles. Benny sitting in front with Grant and Aidan Denham as the two number 8s, Sibbick and Cochrane as the wing backs, and then you've got Vargas and Shankland in attack.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did as well. Yeah. we came up with the exact same team. Yeah. Well, I think that was fairly obvious that. I mean, I think there's one or two areas where you go, well, for instance, if Craig Gordon is up to it, then yeah, you wouldn't be surprised to see him parachute straight in. As we talked before, it's like the second he's ready, he's coming back into the team. Like there's no getting around that.
I'm not. So I think, in my view, I think if he's on the bench, then he's ready. I've always agree. I always have of the view that if the player's on the bench, then he is ready to play. Especially for a goalkeeper, he's ready. If a goalkeeper's on the bench, then I think he's ready to play first team football. My preference would be for Craig Gordon to start, but the reason I've chose Clark is that's because who I think Stephen Naismith will go for.
No, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I'm in a similar boat, but I mean, eventually one of these weeks it's going to be Gordon that's going to be back in the lineup. I'm sure that day's not too far away. I would imagine. Again, similar sort of thing you could say about Halkett, but I think that when he came on against Aberdeen the weekend, he did look a bit rusty. Still not quite up to, understandably, not quite up to full speed yet. And when you're going away to Celtic Park, you can't have defenders who are kind of 60, 70, 80% there. Everyone needs to be
sharp,
absolutely on it. That's why, for the same reason, I think that Atkinson won't make the cut. Because again, we saw that against Rangers last week before.
Yep.
When he just, he's put straight back into the starting lineup, and he did toil. It was weird because he made a couple of great defensive blocks to keep Rangers quiet at one end, but on the ball he was really rusty. It made poor decisions, just didn't look up to the pace of the game. And again, I don't think that's the sort of risk that you can take it.
And he's had an illness. He's had an illness recently as well.
Of course, exactly. Yeah. So I don't think we'll see him come in. But I think though, like you, I think we will see the midfield change a little bit. In that, obviously up at Pataudry, it was kind of like 2 number 8s and a number 10 sitting in front of them. I think we're more likely to see Beningame drop back to number 6, and then, like you say, with 2 centre mids ahead of him, just because, again, it's something we've touched on a lot on the on the site before. But obviously, he brings a lot. Beningame in that role just really helps in terms of the build-up play, in terms of just having options to build out from when you're passing out from the back, and then out of possession, it just provides an extra layer of defence in that central area of the park, which is going to be really important, you would imagine. And then because we're assuming that Neuenhoff's out, we're assuming that Lowry's out. Obviously, we know Devlin's out. He's going to be out until it sounds like he won't be back until after the winter break, by the sounds of it. So it does leave you incredibly short of options, because you look at it and you go, all right, that's 3 midfielders, 3 players who could potentially play there. They're out injured. There's Halliday and Haring, who just appear to have just completely fallen down the pecking order. So that basically just leaves you with the midfield of Beningame, Denham, and George Grant. I'm sure you had the same problem when you were trying to think, oh, okay, who could it be? And it's like, well, there's only really 2 options here.
Yeah. So on that, that's where I kind of posted it in the my section of the predicted lineups. Is I thought you could argue you could go 3-4-3. That's not a system that's unusual to a lot of the players in the squad, because it's a system that Robbie Nielsen played a lot, certainly it's last season before he was replaced with Stephen Naismith. And then you think you could have Shanklin through the middle with Vargas and kind of Barry Mackay playing off them, but then it leaves you, I think, a player short in midfield. It's one of those, do you balance up? Like Scott Alexander says in the comments, like, need to be positive. That kind of 3-4-3 would certainly signal positivity, but then you have to balance that with you're coming up against the Scottish Championship. They're not as good as they have been the last couple of seasons, but still, you don't want to leave yourself too exposed. And again, it's at the moment, it's hard to kind of trust the team to be expansive. Is good enough? Are we good enough at the moment to go to Celtic and play a bit more expansively and take the game to Celtic? I'm not sure, but I mean, it's at the same time, wouldn't mind seeing that. But I'm just thinking,
I know what you mean. It's like that, it wouldn't be the most unwelcome thing in the world, but
yeah,
let's be honest, it would be a pretty big departure from what we've seen under Naismith so far. You know, we've not really seen, you know, get the team ever play a proper handbrake off and let's go and have a go. That's not really what we've seen so far. So again, I think that I'm with you. I think that you know, these two, if say Celtic go on to win, say it's 2-0 or something like that, defeats like that become a lot more palatable if your team's had a go and you can see there's been an intent there. And okay, you can lose the game, but as long as there's, you know, some kind of game plan to try and actually attack and win and score goals, you know, that can be a lot easier to forgive. Whereas if you sit back and you get battered 3-0, that's when people start to get really annoyed, as you know, as we've seen at certain points through Naismith's reign. So yeah, no, I think that it would be nice, but I wouldn't expect it, to be honest. I don't think we're going to see a gung ho Hearts tomorrow. I think it'll be a quite
controlled,
defensive and conservative Hearts, shall we say?
Yeah, I mean, saying that, I think Naismith won't go. I don't think Naismith's the type, and he's came out and said this, that he'd go and just sit in, and I think people will throw the Aberdeen aspect back in it, where they went 1-0 up and then just never responded to Miosi's goal when it went 1-1, and then the late goal as well. It did at times look like the Hearts were just right. We'll just hang on to what we got. But I don't see Naismith going to Celtic Park and just going, right, we are here to sit on the edge of the box and defend. There'll be much more of a balance between that but that's where the is talk of being brave, and if there's an opportunity to go forward, and if there's an opportunity to keep the ball. So it will be probably a bit of cat and mouse. Before we get on to kind of talking about attack, I just want to ask a question from Andrew Jack. Would playing Halliday be really so bad? No, I think he's the type of player that's never let Hearts down. It's just like James said. You said, James, that he's just fallen down the pecking order. Don't think he's really in Naismith's plans. You go back to the derby and not being brought in to play left back. My fear with playing Halliday is that you chuck him in at Celtic Park, he'd be so pumped up that he just maybe it would be he'd go OTT and leave himself, maybe get booked early on, and he's walking a tight line, etc., etc. So
because we know that like if Halliday's playing at Celtic Park, he's going to get dogs abuse
yes,
off of the home crowd. We know that, we know that it's not going to be an easy afternoon for him and all the rest of it. No, I think Andrew makes a good point. And I think ability wise, yeah, I think he could do it, but it's that whole thing of, well, we've not seen him play all season. Then there's, again, there's only so much you can get from training games. There's only so much you can get from friendlies or whatever. You need competitive matches under your belt in order to get up to speed. And again, just I think chucking him in against the best midfield in the league, against guys like asking to you go mark Matt O'Reilly after having not played played a game all season or whatever. It's just that's an awfully big ask to say to anyone, just to pitch them straight in and be like, all right, this guy's the best player in the league on form at the moment. On you go. Stop him. It's like that's a very big ask. But then having said that, it's also a big ask for Aidan Denham. It's going to be a really big afternoon for him because
it's going to be massive. Yeah.
He doesn't get. He's not had too many starts of late. Like I know he had a couple obviously earlier on in the season, and I think that obviously he made a mistake against, I think it was Dundee, wasn't it, at the start of the season, and he kind of fell out the team after that. It's going to be an absolutely huge challenge for him. Again, I think he's up against some of the best players in the entire country. I think the Celtics midfield is very, very strong. But these are the kind of games where you do learn a lot from them. I would imagine. You get to test yourself against the best players, see how they do, see what they do, and hopefully you can hold your own against them. So it'll be a really big afternoon for him, arguably the biggest of his career. You think, if he does start, and then of course Grant as well is going to have a lot of responsibility in there because, again, there's not much creativity in either of our teams or either of our lineups, and I just don't. I don't think Denham's that kind of player. I don't think Beningaby's that kind of player. I think that basically all the creativity in the midfield is going to have to come from George Grant, which again, that's a lot of expectations to put on his shoulders, but there's not really many other options there.
And I suppose on top of the creative responsibility on Grant, the midfield as a whole, looking at the wing backs, I'll exclude Benny in this, but if our lineup is as we predict, the four in front of Benny, Civic, Cochrane, and then Grant and Denham, there'll be an onus on them to get up and support Shankland and Vargas, because Shankland and Vargas were kind of what's the word I'm looking for? They were kind of left up on their own against the second half of Aberdeen. They didn't really get much. They were isolated. Didn't get much support, and that's again massive. To go to Celtic Park, you need to have, as Scott Alexander says, use pace up top. You need to have pace at Celtic Park. Vargas at the moment looks like the quickest forward Hearts have got. I mean, Naismith could play Oda through the middle. It's not his position. He could play Tagawa. I'm going to say he won't play Tagawa just because he didn't really assert himself off the bench at Pittodrie. So it does seem like it'll be, I would imagine, Vargas up front with Shankland.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, this did make me kind of sit and pause for a moment and try and figure out what we'd actually see. But I think that Vargas and Shankland, I think particularly in the first half at Pittodrie, they actually played quite well. I thought they linked up quite well together. And I think there are actually a couple of occasions when Vargas was in a great position to receive the ball and Shankland didn't quite get it to him, for instance. So yeah, I think he's shown enough. I think from the Aberdeen game that he deserves another goal. Tagawa, on the other hand, I think that he didn't really offer much at all when he came on against Aberdeen. I'm pretty sure he lost the ball every time he got it, or near enough did. And in the previous game against Rangers as well, obviously he was given a start there. Didn't make much of an impression at all. Couldn't really get into the game. Couldn't even get on the ball. So I think that, I think Vargas deserves his chance. And like you say, he's got that pace about him as well, which you absolutely do need against Celtic, because we know that it's very difficult to score against Celtic. We know they make life hard for you, but we also know that one area where you can do that is definitely we can by catching them on the break, hitting them in the counter attack, getting a bit of pace, getting in behind. And the other area as well, actually, is probably set pieces, where I'm not convinced they're particularly strong at the back when it comes to defending free kicks, corners, that kind of thing. And recently, of course, Hearts have kind of added that string to their bow after going so long without scoring an attacking set piece all season. I think we're on 2 in 5 games now, which, it's still only 2 swallows. It's not quite a summer, but we're getting there, and it's certainly moving in the right direction. Again, I think if Hearts are going to score and they're going to hurt Celtic, set pieces is going to be one area where they can do it. How many they'll get, on the other hand, that's a completely different matter. I don't think there'll be that many Hearts corners or free kicks or that kind of thing. But when they do arise, that will definitely be an opportunity, surely.
So we've talked about Hearts and kind of ran through the lineup. Looking at Celtic, I mean, we've got, don't have to dwell too much on Celtic. They are the most expensively assembled squad in Scotland. They've got the reigning champions. Everyone knows the qualities that Callum McGregor possesses, Matt O'Reilly possesses. Lewis Palmer's come on to be a really key figure. Mikey Johnson's back in the fold as well. Has scored a few goals. But big one is Kyogo Furuhashi has not been as effective as he was under Ange Postecoglou. I think I make it. He scored 1 goal in the last 11 games. Straight away, I'm thinking adding 2 and 2. I'm getting 4 goals for him against Hearts tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to get 4, but no, Kyogo's a really interesting player actually at the moment, because we've all seen him over the last couple of years. We know exactly what he brings to the team. We know his movement's exceptional. He's a very clever player. He's very instinctive, great finisher. But the big thing at the moment is he doesn't get on the ball at Celtic. Obviously, since Brendan Rodgers has come in, they've changed the way they attack slightly. And one of the big things is that, I mean, in Furuhashi, he was never one of these guys that's constantly on the ball. Even under Postecoglou, he didn't get many touches per game. But I mean, it's shrunk right down, and now he barely has any influence whatsoever. And it's just the way that Celtic are attacking, it doesn't really seem to suit him. And I think even when you look back at Brendan Rodgers' first spell at Celtic, he's not the kind of striker that he likes. I think Rodgers typically tends to go for kind of big physical centre forwards. I don't think Kyogo's that whatsoever. I think he's a completely different kind of player. And we even saw during pre-season that I'm sure that Daisen Maeda was playing up front in a couple of games for Celtic as the lone striker. So I'm not convinced that Rodgers is totally sold on Kyogo, weirdly enough. And certainly the way they play at the moment doesn't bring the best out of him. He does struggle to get into the game, and I think that put that up against a back three of number 6 in front of it as well, and all of a sudden it makes it very difficult to get involved in the game. So I actually think that, and again, completely asking for trouble here, I actually think that Kyogo could struggle tomorrow. And there we go. I've said it. I've condemned us all. I've doomed us to a 5-0 defeat. But there you go.
You've done it. So before we move on to just touching on the AGM before we finish, Celtic, I think it's important to say that I think we've been quite down, and it's just I think it's just natural pessimism of Hearts going to Celtic, going on the last 15, 16 years. But Celtic are they're infallible. They have dropped points to Motherwell, St Johnstone, Hibs this season. They got beat by Kilmarnock at the weekend, and it wasn't like a smash and grab from Kilmarnock. It was a very, very good performance from Killian, a deserved win. So
second time this season as well.
Yeah, second time this.
Very similar sort of game.
Yeah, and so it shows you. And also to make the point that I know they beat them 3-1 in the end, but St Johnstone gave them a lot of trouble at McDermott Park earlier on this month as well. It was I think St Johnstone took the lead, and Rodgers had to rediet the riot act at half time. So there is reason to believe, if you were to pick out kind of like the 3 main things Hearts need to do to get a result, what do you think? What do you think those those 3 are? And we'll take set pieces. We'll give that as one.
Yes, set pieces. I think as well, progressing the ball quickly up the park. I mean, it's again something that I know we've spoken about a lot. I know it's been a bugbear of a lot of fans that things can be a bit pedestrian at times, but getting the ball from back to front quickly, testing, asking questions of the Celtic defence, give them balls in behind, make them chase after things, make life difficult for them. Just ask them questions, because one of the things that we do know about the Celtic team is the fact that they've got a very unsettled back line. They've very rarely played the same back four 2 games in a row this season. A lot of players have come in and out of the team. That understanding isn't perhaps there. And particularly with some of the guys like, Scales, obviously, who wasn't at the club last season, or Lagerbielke, who's only just come in, Nat Phillips, who's just come in. These are new players who are still getting to know their teammates, still getting to know their roles, and they're, like you say, they're fallible. That's definitely an area to heart. So I think, making the most set pieces is going to be really important. Getting the ball from back to front very quickly, important. Ask some questions, and then that's a bit of a cop out, but get that little bit of luck, whether that be, they go down, they get a man sent off, whether it's a goal goes in because it goes off somebody's arse, whether it's a dodgy call that just falls Hearts' way, a dodgy penalty decision. Not that Celtic might tend to get many of those against them at Parkhead, but anyway, I just think that you do need that little bit of luck. I think it's conceivable that you could see Hearts going there tomorrow and getting a result, maybe a draw, maybe even a win. I don't think it's conceivable that you can see Hearts going there tomorrow and playing Celtic off the park and strolling. I don't think that's going to happen. So I do think you need that wee bit of luck. That's my 2 cents for what it's worth.
And David Watson on Facebook has added a 4th one and says, "Do what Kelly done in their faces from the start." Which
because they don't like that. They don't.
My only issue, that I think every Hearts fan is that's what they see from Hearts, is that's what they want to see from Hearts, is a team that's aggressive and confrontational, really makes it difficult, and just a real pain in the arse to play against. My issue is my fear is that you just look at this, the makeup of the squad, and I just don't know if the squad is there to get at teams in that way, that energy, high tempo off the ball. Into I think the pressing has been good at times, like this season, like high up the pitch, but I think that's more kind of just kind of makes a bit more methodical, and the way it's worked and shaped. Whereas you look at the team as a whole, it's not a lot of kind of tempo, urgency there, just that kind of aggression, if you know what I mean, aggression to get up and in front and in opposition players' faces. So, but we'll see. I'm often wrong, so hopefully I'm wrong in this instance. We'll finish off, James, by talking about the AGM yesterday. Obviously, I jumped on and did a video yesterday after the club one, and then I went to the Foundation of Hearts AGM. So this is your opportunity to ask me any questions from that you may have, having read all the stuff that came out of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I guess one of the things that I was interested in was the biggest talking point was probably the Shankland stuff, where it was talking about, our Hearts going to try and get him on a new deal. What kind of bid would be impossible to turn down, all that kind of thing. So what was your take on that? Was it Andrew McKinley, wasn't it? That was asking
and he was very straightforward, straight to the point, in that Hearts won't sell Shankland unless it's an exceptional offer. Now, what that exceptional offer is, we're unsure. He was reluctant on or off the record to put a number on it, so we don't know what that number is. So it's just left to us to speculate on that. But he did. One of the comments I really liked from him was the fact that he said he brought up the fact that the European money that Hearts could get by having Shankland in the squad. So he basically said you can use that as a starting point, and then I would imagine that's a starting point, and then you can add what this maybe see his value is, how he's important, and if there is, and obviously you've got that premium if there is for example, Rangers that comes in from, if it's a Premiership club, there's always going to be that extra bit of extra premium. So yeah, I do think the big thing is Hearts won't want to sell. I've also found it interesting in terms of a new contract that he said the focus is on paraphrasing here, but the focus is on the players who are in the last 6 months of their deal, and then the January transfer window, and then it kind of said there's likely that talks will begin in January or towards the end of January. On that one, I'm like, Shankland is a player that you just try and open talks as soon as possible, and basically just say, would you like to stay, and then get an answer from there, because then that allows you, if you go to Shankland and his agent now and he turns around and goes, no, I'm not, where his head's at, it's like, are you looking for a move? Are you wanting to stay? Are you wanting to wait out and see? At least then he gives Hearts an answer so they can know. It's like, okay, he says he wants to go in January, then you're just thinking, right, well, we don't want to lose you in January, but we better start looking for potential replacements if you do want to leave in January, and then there's a massive bid or exceptional bid that the club would accept. Or if it's a case of, no, I'm happy to kind of wait and see what happens, then it still allows you to plan ahead to the summer. So I think the sooner that the club start having those talks with Shankland, the better, because in an ideal world, he signs a new deal. I think it was Graham, who often comments on these podcasts and gets involved. He said on Twitter, seeing his quote from one of our tweets, was that he is the most kind of influential, important player since Rudy Scatchell, and I completely agree with that in terms of the influence he has on the team. So he's just the type of players that you just try and get him tied down. If the Hearts manage to get him tied down, imagine the positivity that would give to the club's fans. So yeah, I like the fact that they said that it would take an exceptional offer, but also was wary of the fact that they're not like urgently opening contract talks with Shankland, which I think should be happening. Should be a priority.
You would like to think so, wouldn't you? I mean, that's an excellent point. Yeah, he probably is the most influential player since Scatch in terms of his importance to the team. And right now in the Premiership, it's hard to think of any other team that are so reliant on one player. I can't think of any other team at the moment who they've got one player who scores half their goals, for instance, or anything like that. There's nobody else quite like that.
So the piece we did earlier in the week, it was in terms of the league. Shankland's goals are in terms of league goals 47. I think it was around 48% of Hearts' total. Yeah, the next nearest player who is as important was, I think it was Miofsky, and his was like 32, so 32%. So you just straight away you can see how important Shankland is, and McKinley mentioned that as well. It's like, I would hope that other players start chipping in with goals. Again, it's hard to see which players are going to be doing that. Again, just the importance of Shankland doesn't need to be said.
I suppose there's one point as well that caught my eye from the AGM, and it must have been when somebody speaking to Joe Savage, I'd assume, and they were talking. I'm sure it was Joe Savage, but I didn't see the question, but I saw the answers, and it was him speaking about the fact that he thought that some of the transfer business that the players that have been brought in maybe went up to the required standard, which I thought was good. That's it's quite a bold thing to say, isn't it? Particularly when some of these players are only been in the door for 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was. I think those comments were certainly some that stood out to fans, and just thought it was quite eye-opening that Savage said that. But at the same time, there's a lot of people have been wanting him. I've seen him getting a bit criticised for it, but at the same time, I think a lot of people have been saying just that, and I think they've been critical of Savage, and then the moment he goes, you know what, guys, you're right, you probably are right that I've been critical of the recruitment, and then he gets criticised for that. So you can't win. Yeah, but I completely understand the point that it was quite strong. That he did say maybe off kind of the standards that they hadn't reached a standard, and I wonder if he was just trying to be kind of amicable and kind of reading the room and reading the fan feeling. It's like, okay, these guys we thought or they could still turn out to be really good signings. Again, reiterate again, sort of like some of the guys, Tagawa, Vargas, Tagawa's on a long-term contract, so you've seen it with. I go back to Jair Tavares at Hibs, and last night with Aberdeen and Frankfurt, Dante Polvara, they signed this guy out of like the second tier of or college in America. It's taken ages to like settle in, but he's eventually turning into an important player. So these guys take time, but I do appreciate probably the balance of signing players who are maybe longer term. They see as kind of maybe influence the team or impact in the team longer term could be balanced with signing guys who, like Kent, can come in straight away and improve the team. So I think maybe this summer the balance wasn't quite right, but I can't say that for the whole. The windows going like back, like last summer, you brought in Shankland to like Cochrane guys, Kai Rose guys who just kind of slotted in straight away. But yeah, it was interesting to hear Savage say that, and it'll be going forward quite intriguing to see if how the transfer business alters, because he kind of said, I'm going to take that criticism on board, and because we want to sign guys who you as in the fans want to see. So yeah, I wonder if it will kind of change the mindset of who is what kind of profile of player is recruited. But I was just going to say, and one thing I can basically rule out, I know you wanted Hearts to sign him, but Danny Armstrong, because apparently he's will cost 7 figures. I think he was he certainly had interest in the summer, and it would have taken a sizable six-figure deal. But I think his again, you bring in that Premiership premium. Hearts need to, if Hearts are going to sign players from Scotland, they need to mainly need to take advantage of the free agent market. I think that's the area, like they did with Zander Clark and Alan Forrest. That's the path or route to get players from other teams in Scotland.
And just lastly as well, before we wrap up, but I mean, is it even a Hearts AGM if we don't talk about a Tynecastle Park hotel?
No, it's definitely not. I was surprised because we didn't get to speak to Budge. I think we got to speak to her the 12 months previous. So, and no one asked how much was invested in, how much has been invested in the Tynecastle Park Hotel. So that's something I'm still trying to find out. But on the flip side, the projections is that it will generate within the first 5 months of being operational £1 million, and that'll be substantially higher over the course of 12 months. So they really see this as a venture, as a project that will benefit the club massively in terms of finance. And I think it's important to say that I know the fact that the hotels, it's got criticism in some quarters, but there's better being something there that drives and generates money than just lying empty in the main stand. And it's clear that they really see this as an opportunity to continue to grow that revenue. They've in terms of the budget for the 23-24 accounts, it was just slightly lower than this year's, and which is impressive considering you're having to take away a sizable amount brought in from the European group stages, because we didn't get group stages this year. So they really see that as a way to bring in money 7 days a week at the club. And it also means that there's going to be a cocktail bar as part of the Skyline Lounge, and it's operational. I think it's the first guests are sometime in February, whenever Hearts are playing Dundee at Dens Park. So I think it's the 3rd of February. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But I mean, it's looking ahead. It's football clubs are businesses now, like more so than ever, and they need to continue to invest in other areas to try and generate money that can then be reinvested into the first team. So yeah, that was I think it was useful.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Yeah, I've got an idea. Maybe we should try and get along when it first opens up.
So yeah, it's going to. I was thinking that as well, but then at the same time, I know some of the feeling amongst Hearts fans in the hotel. So we'll see. Maybe once things are better on the pitch, we can do. We can go along and have a stay in the Tynecastle Park Hotel. But we'll see how that goes and see how the on-field fare goes on.
Yeah, well, I guess on that note, I mean, that brings us back to Celtic and to tomorrow, and I guess we're not. I don't think either of us are feeling particularly optimistic about it. I don't think, but you never know. You know, these things happen. You know, crazier things have happened. A lot crazier things have happened, and at least if we go not expecting much, then we won't be disappointed, will we?
I've been buoyed by Jimmy Duff, who's commented on YouTube. I can't put it up on the screen because it's got expletive, so I'm not sure if I'm allowed to put it on the screen. I'm going to put it on the screen because it's funny. Of course, Hearts can beat them. They just got to believe they can. Add to that, Celtic are expletive, so get into them, lads. I would say Naismith, just pop that on your. I would pop that on the dressing room wall. There's a team talk done. So thank you, Jimmy. Let's go to Celtic Park and finally win. So we'll see. Just before we find out, just want to say that unfortunately neither of myself or James will be at the game tomorrow. We have put a press. Pass request in at the start of the week. However, Celtic have not got back to us. So this is where the Jose Mourinho meme comes in. I prefer not to speak, but we will still be reporting on the game, and we'll have the videos pre and post match tomorrow. So be sure to check them out. And obviously all the content from today's presser and the AGM yesterday will be up on the site across the next kind of 6-7 hours, so be sure to check them out. But until the next time, thank you very much, and hopefully we have a good weekend. Goodbye.